Welcome back to Lyrics 101. Today, I'm actually going to give you an assignment that you can share with all the other people watching. Now, you might be thinking, Brent, limericks are not lyrics. Limericks are poems, but most lyrics rhyme, almost all of them, and limericks always rhyme. So it can be a really good exercise if you're trying to become a better lyricist to master writing limericks. A limerick is a short, funny poem with a very specific format. Here's an example. There once was a runner named Dwight, who could jog even faster than light. He set out one day in a relative way and returned on the previous night. Get it? He ran so fast he went back in time. It's a physics joke. Notice how the rhythmic feel of a limerick is what's called anapestic, which means ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da. You can remember the feel with the word potato over and over again. Potato, 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 potato. Potato. Here's another limerick. A man felt a deep sense of loss. He'd misplaced a container of floss. His meal had a hint of plastic and mint, 'cause his floss got tossed in with the sauce. I wrote that one. It's not great, but hey, it's a limerick. And just for the record, the limericks in the rest of the video are all written by me as well. Anyway, usually the last line of a lyric is the punchline or the culmination of the story the whole thing has been setting up to that point. So when I was writing this video, I kept trying to figure out a way to explain how syllables work in the limerick format. You know, haikus are a little simpler in this regard because a haiku doesn't have to rhyme. It just needs a certain number of syllables, 5 in the first line, then 7, then 5. That's a haiku. Limericks aren't like that. What matters in a limerick is how the syllables interact with the meter as well as where it rhymes. Some people might say that a properly written limerick is just one of those things that you know it when you hear it, but when I've Googled the phrase good limericks, I've often found limericks that have traffic jams of too many syllables and they just don't come out in a way that feels right. So I did some thinking, I did some tinkering, and I think I've literally invented a diagram that shows how to write a limerick. So check it out. Each line of circles is one line of the limerick, and each circle represents an equal amount of time. 1 syllable's worth of time, in fact. So the white circles are optional syllables. The gray and black syllables are mandatory, and the black ones are stressed, meaning they're sort of louder and more accented, like the TA syllable in potato. Potato, not potato or potato. The ones with the letters are where your rhyming syllables go. Lines 1, 2, and 5 rhyme with each other, and lines 3 and 4 rhyme with each other. So the rhyme scheme of the thing is A-A-B-B-A. Here's a limerick with the absolute minimum number of syllables. I told my friend Lenore she needs to hydrate more. She tried the punch, then drank a bunch and woke up on the floor. When I wrote this, I only attached syllables to the gray and black circles, the mandatory ones. But what do these other kinds of circles mean? Well, the red circles have a rest symbol in them, meaning they're always silent. You always take a little rest during them. And what's the situation with these yellow ones? Well, they're basically like a white circle, except they can travel. This one can be attached to a syllable at the end of line 3, or it can be skipped because, again, it's optional. But if you want another syllable for the beginning of line 4, it can travel there. Same with the end of line 4. You can skip this syllable, you can put a syllable in there at the end of line 4, or it can travel to the beginning of line 5. If you try to put a syllable in a yellow circle and another one in the dotted line circle, you'll have a traffic jam of too many syllables. So that was the bare minimum number of syllables, which means it was shorter than most limericks. Remember, all the circles need to be represented rhythmically, but if they're not filled in, you just skip over them for the duration of 1 syllable. I'll show you what I mean by saying the word skip in the unused syllables for this limerick. Okay, ready? Skip, I told Skip, my friend Skip, Lenore Skip, skip, rest, skip, she needs Skip to high skip, drape more skip, skip, rest, skip. She tried Skip the punch skip, then drank Skip a bunch skip, and woke Skip up on Skip the floor skip, skip, end. Now on the other end of the spectrum, let's do one with the maximum number of syllables. I wrote this one and it only really rhymes if you do it in a cartoonish British accent, so here goes. I'm gonna just read it. I was longing to feel a bit happier, which I do when my lovers get slappier. So a friend bought some fishes and granted my wishes by slapping my bum with tilapia. Now let's diagram it. Notice how every solid white circle is attached to a syllable. The first yellow circle and the second yellow circle both stay at the end of their respective lines. So that's the format, and as long as you follow those rules, you'll be making a limerick. At least from a technical perspective. Practicing limerick writing is a really good exercise for a lyricist, especially one who's learning their craft, because it teaches you to work within a format. Kind of like if you have to attach lyrics to a melody that already exists, you usually aren't allowed or able to change that melody, so you have to bend and stretch your lyrics to fit within that format. And limerick writing can also help you master the trick where you write the end of a rhyming couplet or stanza first, and then you work backwards from there. It's one of my favorite tricks in all of lyricdom. There's something kind of magical about the final rhyming word of a couplet, stanza, limerick, whatever. It can take what you're trying to say and make it seem snappier, or funnier, or wittier, or even more beautiful. So if you figure out where you want to end up, you can work backwards from there rather than writing it in order, painting yourself into a corner, and then not knowing what to do. So now let's take a practical look at how that process works. First off, if you're going to figure out the final rhyming word of your limerick first, you need to make sure whatever word you pick has a lot of available words it can rhyme with. Otherwise, you know, like if you try the word month, well then you're going to have to rhyme it with like made up words like, I don't know, bunth, or force it to rhyme with words it doesn't rhyme with, like bunts. To check whether a word has enough rhymes, I recommend a rhyming dictionary. This is the New Comprehensive American Rhyming Dictionary by Sue Young. I've used it for over 10 years. The link to buy it is in the description, but if you don't want to pay for it or you can't afford it, just go to rhymezone.com or use the RhymeZone app. It's free. But I warn you, some of the words are crowdsourced, so it's not always 100% reliable. You just need to use your best judgment with RhymeZone. All right, let's see what it looks like to do this. When I was thinking about how to start this exercise, I just looked around the room for a word, and the first word I saw was Soleil. It's a brand name of a seltzer that I drink. So let's think of something funny that would end on that word. My first thought was Cirque du Soleil, which is this spectacular circus with all kinds of amazing and sometimes super strange performances. So the punchline could be like how somebody ended up in Cirque du Soleil. Let's work backwards from there. What would cause you to end up performing in a circus? Maybe realizing you're super flexible and becoming a contortionist, or discovering you have some other like freakish, unique talent? Let's see. Well, look, limericks are often dirty. That's just the nature of limericks. But I try to keep my Lyrics 101 videos fairly PG, so like what's the happy medium? Ooh, a car outside, pretty loud. What's the happy medium between dirty but also PG? I think it's farts, okay? So maybe the person in this limerick farts a freakish amount. Yes, mom, farts are PG. So maybe the person in this limerick farts so much she makes a circus act out of it. That's sort of funny, but if we can fit it into the limerick format just right, it'll become even more funny. Also, a lot of limericks start with, there once was a person from place, like there once was a man from Nantucket. So if we're going to end on Soleil, maybe it's a French city that will rhyme with Soleil, like Marseille. That's a French city. So there once was a girl from Marseille. Great. Now we have our ingredients. A girl from Marseille who farts a freakish amount and ends up in Cirque du Soleil. Let's see what happens. All right, here goes. There once was a girl from Marseille who violently farted all day. She once tried to toot on the end of a flute. Now she headlines in Cirque du Soleil. Ta-da! Like I said, rhyming is a magical shortcut that can make things seem funnier or wittier or whatever. For another example, if I just say, things you eat can affect the color of your poop. Well, that's not hilarious to say, it's just true. But watch this. My granny, a kooky old yenta, wanted booze to spice up her polenta. She mixed up the rye with a bottle of dye, and now when she poops, it's magenta. See how it's funnier when it rhymes? Okay, one more. We'll do this one for you gamers. What does Mario say? He says, "It's a me," right? Okay, so how would we make that the end of a limerick? Well, what's a funny situation for him to say that in? How about this? 4 mushrooms grew out of my tree, but one day I found only 3. I shouted out, "Whom has stolen my shroom?" And a voice softly said, "It's a me." You can do this with almost anything, and you can start from almost anywhere as long as you're willing to think it through, follow the syllable and rhyme formats, and try to make the last line the culmination or the punchline of the story that you've set up in the first 4 lines. Maybe you just pick a word to end on, or you can pick a city, like I live in Philly, so there once was a fella from Philly whose cheesesteaks were overly spilly. One day he felt lewd, so he ate in the nude and got hot provolone on his willy. Alright, so now I'm going to assign you some homework that you can do right now in the comment box below. And you can pick one of these 2 assignments. Either write a limerick about someone getting shot out of a cannon, or a limerick where the final rhyming syllable rhymes with the word shut. Keep in mind I said rhyming syllable, so if you want to have 1 or 2 other syllables after it, you could rhyme something like shut the door with but the door and cut the door, as long as the final rhyming syllable rhymes with shut. And in the comments section, we can discuss which ones are the best and which ones could use work and why. And you can download the limerick diagram, both the guide as well as the one to actually physically write on. There's a link to Dropbox in the description below where you can download that. By the way, please don't write anything hateful or vile, okay? Just be cool. You know, let's do a cool educational thing. Be funny, be a little dirty, just like, you know what I'm saying. Be cool. All right, thanks for watching. And before you write your limerick, please just like and subscribe. And that notification bell will tell you when I come out with new videos. Okay, thanks for watching. Happy limerick writing. Bye!